this does kind of go into our topic today about how do we progress relationships outside of the relationship escalator or whatever model, linear model that we have.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your weekly dose of queer relationships, queer joy.
Here we are again, and I have some more joy this week. So
Good.
rest assured, I'm bringing it up like a tiny bit from last week. Tiny
Well,
bit, tiny bit.
I feel like I oscillate sometimes, not wanting to have this like toxic positivity vibe with the queer
Right.
joy, but also being like, we can find joy in even these small things, that there's not this pressure. It has to be some big thing that happened in the week or a big
Right.
event
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
super new connection.
All about that. Realistic joy. Some days it's not realistic to feel like, singing and skipping and
I don't know about you, but for me, my life is a musical. So
most weeks.
going
Last week that was not my life. Last week it was pretty dramatic.
wait, have we talked about this? Have you seen the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? Which, by the way, there's lots of issues with that title. I know this. We can unpack that at another time. But
I have not.
oh, Melissa. Okay. We won't go too much into it, but I've seen it twice, the full series. And it's such an interesting depiction of mental health and relationship. When we've talked about some of the ideas around like love addiction, but also BPD,
Great. Mhm.
and she is a musical theater person. And the whole show is they come out in song and dance throughout the episode.
Okay, I need to see it.
Yeah, and so the main character, of course, it centers around her, and actually that's the first show that I watched that really normalized the idea of shame spiraling. They talk about shame spiraling. They have a therapist, which I mean, there are things I'm not saying, please, anyone who's listening right now who has seen this show, I am not saying this is a perfect show, but I love, and I'm not gonna give a spoiler alert, but I will say, Melissa, you should watch it, and when you see the last episode, you are so gonna be happy with the
I was
last
like, "We should talk."
Yes! It's gonna be it's so your vibe. It's so your
Amazing.
vibe.
Amazing.
So
Cool.
people have seen it? Write in. Did you like the show? Was it I mean, again, I don't think it's the best depiction of mental health, but I think it's a really great depiction in a way that I've never seen before, especially interlacing love relationship challenges with mental health.
Beautiful.
So on that note,
Let's do our introductions.
should we could you imagine, Melissa, you and I doing I could see us doing an episode in song and dance.
Oh my god.
Maybe just song. Just song. Okay, we're giving away half our listeners. There are some big, big, big opinions about musicals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, my name is Keely C. Helmick. I am a licensed professional counselor, certified sex therapist. I am queer, white, non-binary femme who owns Connective Therapy Collective, and I am non-monogamous and continuing to heal with the back injury.
I thought you just meant heal like an Aldo. I'm like, "Aren't we all?"
Oh,
Like,
yes.
we're healing.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, physically as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm Melissa DeSegurant. I'm licensed as a marriage and family therapist and a professional counselor working at Connective Therapy Collective. I'm white, I'm bisexual, I am able-bodied, I'm polyamorous, I am polysaturated. I don't actually feel the words solo poly are super fitting right now. So I'm just poly and partner. I
Ooh.
know, updates. There's actually not like some huge update or anything attached to that, but I have been reflecting on that over the last week or so, and I'm moving out of that space. I'm in some very deep attachment-based partnerships. I don't feel, let's put it this way, if I put a dating profile up right now, which it's always a little tricky depending on the platform I'm using because not all of them are really set up for non-monogamy to
Yeah.
communicate like what your style is. But I wouldn't in the past I've written something like I'm looking for non-monogamy and I'm single, and then below I've said solo poly with a few established connections. That's kind of my lingo that I've used.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't put that I was single. I would put that I was partnered. So,
Mm.
that's my I guess that was an update in my intro. We'll get more into updates. What are your updates, Keely? Let's get the attention off of me.
I mean, I think for once, I don't have a ton of updates.
Yeah.
I think I'm really embracing the slowdown and recognizing in my slowing down, there's less going on. I mean, there's less activity in the sense of less attention, less interest,
Mhm.
noticing my ego when there's less attention or less likes or less for those that didn't I don't wanna spoil too much of the episode, but Multi-Amory just had a great episode with a dating coach, a person who's been helping people for 15 years do coaching, and it's a lot of great hints, and one of the things that I took away from that episode was the idea of how we're trained our brains are trained and not that the dating apps don't work with our brains
Mm, mhm.
because it's such a fast input that we're not like that, and then because we've been for those that do social media with which I would guess almost everyone who does dating apps probably does some kind of social media,
Mhm.
and so we're so trained to be looking at, like, likes or
Mhm.
focused on the amount of attention we get versus the quality of the attention
Sure.
and whether a person is a good fit, and so I've been thinking about that a lot and reflecting on that quality over quantity.
Mhm.
And then the other piece, the really nugget that I wanna say out loud to other people who may not follow that podcast or might not listen to it, is she talked about the dating coach talked about having a screening mechanism,
Yeah.
and so instead of just going right from matching with somebody, chatting a little bit, and then going on a first date, even if it's just a meetup and it's like a coffee meetup or a tea meetup, she actually suggests doing some kind of phone call or video chat or something for like 10 or 15 minutes before even doing the full meetup.
Totally, totally.
So I
I know a lot of people that that do that even if it didn't originally come because they had, like, thought it was a great dating advice thing, but more because of, like, finances. Like, I'm not gonna pay to go out on a date with somebody if I don't know that we jive. Like,
yeah,
you know?
I'm gonna start I haven't done that, and I was reflecting, I did actually the first person I ended up being in a relationship with from meeting on an app, she did do that. She
Mhm.
did do a phone call, and then somehow I stopped doing that, or that wasn't the norm anymore for the meetups that I was having. Yeah, I like that from a financial standpoint too.
Right? Like, just, like, I gotta be picky and choosy about where I'm putting that money every month. I can't do
Yeah,
endless dates.
and don't you feel like you can tell I feel like having that kind of voice contact for 10 or 15 minutes.
It's just more information. For me, more information is always better. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna try it these next couple weeks to be continued. Let's see if this is helpful.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm still hanging with Main and just kind of I am very much looking for a primary partner and to be partnered, which of course means that that's not happening because I am a little too eager for that right now. So, again, to be continued.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think shifts have been happening, but it's not like there's some like big update. necessarily to share. I've recovered from my bout of loneliness that I was experiencing because of the shifts in frequency of seeing people in my life. Got to like kind of rectify that situation last week, which helped a lot. Yeah, and have just, it's funny because I think I'm feeling pretty detached at this moment from the hierarchy because I certainly don't have a primary partner. That those words don't seem to apply to me right
Uh-huh.
now.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I also don't feel solo poly. So it's this weird, this is I'm in that land where labels aren't really helpful because it's more than just a word or a label. But I am in attachment-based relationships. And yeah, I don't know how to describe that anymore, I think, than I've already have. One thing that has helped, I think, and this does kind of go into our topic today about how do we progress relationships outside of the relationship escalator or whatever linear model that we have. One of the things that helped, I think, progress some of my relationships in the last week was really direct communication and conversation about things that are hard or that are not great or not working.
Uh-huh.
And it was brought to my attention that that seems to be an area that I struggle with is naming those things. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, people pleasing tendencies. And especially because of my position in non monogamy, I can struggle with like, well, when does my opinion matter? And part of this is because I do accept it that there is a certain amount of discomfort I am going to have to deal with to be non-monogamous. I just internalize all that and I deal with it on my own and I independently try and manage that, which is great. I mean, self-regulating is an important skill. And just to be in close connection with people, we also need to be able to share what's not working or what's hard. And part of that for me is having trust that the other person can hear that. So really hats off to my partner for making that space, and I was very verbal about expressing my appreciation for that during and after that conversation, because that is a growth edge for me to be able to name those things, and I feel a lot more seen and a lot more connected and a lot more safe. Like, now we have a format to be able to be like, "This really sucks and I don't like it," you know? So, I'm really grateful for that, and it has shifted how I feel in my relationships.
Lovely. Well, I find it interesting. Can I make a couple comments on what you said? Not about you personally, but
Yeah, yeah.
around like the topic. Because when you were talking, it made me think of some things. One of them being when there is only a certain amount of time a week that you're spending time with someone. I know that people have said it can be hard to want to talk about something serious or to bring up hard things. They're like, oh, I only get to see this person this one time this week and I
Bingo.
want it to be quote unquote just fun.
Yeah, and especially in non-monogamy, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want our time to be processing all of our other relationships all the time. Like, that's not I'm here to connect with you,
Right.
you know? And this is a long-term relationship, and we've been in a relationship for a while, and so if we never make space for those conversations, they're not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes it can go from not really having those conversations and then those conversations it can ebb and flow and then those conversations take up a lot of time
Right. Yeah.
and being conscious about that. And Melissa, your check-in and updates really tie in very well with our topic or one of our topics of the day, which is what does it mean or what does it look like to mm, what's I just lost my words. Like to move
Like, progress.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I wanted to say accelerate earlier, but I hesitated because I don't know if that's really the right word or energy that I'm meaning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not meaning that. I know that
Yeah.
things can accelerate.
That's the word that comes to mind first, but I think what we're saying is more progress. How do we grow and
Yes,
expand our
grow.
relationships?
How do we progress? How do we grow in a relationship outside of what we've been taught is the relationship escalator? What does
Right.
it look like to progress a relationship, even if you're monogamous? We're gonna be talking both about monogamy and non-monogamy, but probably maybe leaning more towards non-monogamy because this topic is so pervasive in non-monogamy. Whereas
Yeah.
monogamy, if you're just seeing one person, things will progress, but maybe not.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we've said this before, but if you are monogamous, I would encourage you to stay tuned because I think the what we look at as maybe helpful initially or it makes it easier as my clients would say for monogamous people to know what the next step is, that relationship escalator. I think it can actually prevent progression of relationships in certain ways if all you're basing the progress on is like, well, now we live together. Now we're getting married. Now we have a kid. Like if it's just about hitting these milestones, it may be that the emotional depth or the safety it may be that none of that actually progresses because
I
all you're basing it is on like the external like again, milestones or things that you've done together, behavioral kind of things.
I would say, in fact, that those milestones can actually stop the growth,
Right, right. I've talked
especially
about it before where I had, like, a couple in couples therapy that stopped as soon as they got married, and again, like, great, like, you don't need to be in couples therapy if you don't want to, like, I'm not gonna force anyone to
yeah.
stay, but it did have this air of, "Well, we're married, so I'm safe now," and I'm like, "Oh, but you could keep progressing. You could keep working on things. How about that as an option?" You know?
Yeah, and what does progression mean if you're not using these markers? I think people are looking for tangible descriptions.
Right.
"Oh, I've been dating so and so for this many amount of years, and
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like we're progressing.
yeah,
What does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that work?" So if we're not demarcating it by moving in, having children together, getting married, building, buying a home together, like all of these pieces, even meeting parents, meeting friends,
the integration thing, yeah.
like what those there can still be a depth and quality and progression to a relationship without all of those markers.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what we're wanting to talk about today is what are maybe give some people some like ways that relationships may progress even if those markers can't be there. But it is going to be really different for each person. That's the whole point is there's not a script.
Yeah.
And we get to decide what feels like progression and what doesn't. It's going to be different for each person. I guess what I would caution people on is if your default is the relationship escalator. If your default is this is the only way things progress, and if that's not happening, it means we're not progressing.
Yes.
Check into that.
Yeah, that's part of it is checking exactly. Is that it feels like you're more connected. It feels like things have progressed in relationship, but then you're doubting it because it's not hitting those markers, or you're feeling the urge to put certain pressure on somebody or some people to hit those markers to feel more comfortable or to feel more part of mainstream society if that's what
Yeah.
people want.
Hey, it's Cardinal, your behind the scenes buddy. People change, podcasts change. A new change around here is our voicemail inbox. You know those radio shows where you can call in? I guess this is the podcast equivalent. I'd like to invite you to give it a try. Call us at 503-660-4409. Of course, the number is down in the episode description. And tell us about your queer joy of the week, or your queer sorrow if you've got to get something off your chest. It'll go straight to voicemail, and you can remain anonymous if you like. I can't wait to hear from you. All right, back to the show.
I'm like not wanting to challenge necessarily our topic today, but this also feels like an important point is this idea. Are we coming at this from the idea that all relationships should be progressing all the time? Like, is
No.
it okay for relationships to be stable and maybe not progressing in the way that we're talking about right now? And is that okay? Does that have to be a bad thing?
And what does stable look like? I also actually, what I thought of as soon as you said that is the term comet and people who identify as having a comet in their life. So, Melissa, do you know what a comet
I
is?
don't know. I'm very interested in this.
So, the terminology, as I understand it, is a comet is somebody who is like in your life, but really just comes every so often. So, the easiest way for me to think about this is like someone perhaps that lives out of town.
I was like, is this my long distance relationship? Is this what this is?
But no, because you have regular check-ins with this person. This
Yes,
is
I do.
more like someone that you just don't really regularly connect with, but
Fall
when
in and out of orbit.
yes, in and out of orbit. So they come by and you have sex or you have this connection, and then they're gone again. And so, but I think the difference between that and like obviously a one night stand or a fling is that this is a person that is around and has come
Yeah.
again and again. But
Yeah.
so I was thinking like that's a very valid, and I've heard from people who have this type of dynamic, it can be a really deep connection that only happens once or twice a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. That so I do definitely agree that that progression, the amount doesn't necessarily mean the depth, the amount of time you see someone and the depth.
Yeah.
And also recognizing that we're going to talk about and we're talking about things that this doesn't have to be defining for everyone. It's more like if you like, I want to bring up the relationship anarchy smorgasbord. And that is if you are feeling like you want to have more depth or a certain type of quality to your relationship dynamic, or maybe you are wanting to hang out. Maybe originally you were hanging out once a week or once every other week. Maybe you're wanting to include an overnight now. If it is a scheduling based thing and you're wanting to progress more, what does that look like? But yeah, there's also that validity in people wanting to stay status quo.
Yeah, I mean, if a relationship is working for everyone, there's no one saying it needs to change or progress, you know? And actually, a word that may be helpful instead of progress, and actually it makes me think of, as you said, the relationship anarchy smorgasbord is evolve. It
Yeah.
progress still has this sort of linear forward motion feel, and I think what we're talking about is more just evolve, grow, shift, change, as they do, as we do as human beings. And what I like about the smorgasbord is it isn't linear. It's like we can evolve in all these different kinds of ways. We can take a look at what kinds of partners are we currently and where is it missing? Maybe we're sexual partners, but we're not really romantic partners. And there's like some romance in the air and we're feeling like into that part of our relationship.
For sure. And when you said that, thank you for that clarification and talking about growth and change and evolution versus progress, because I just read a quote and I said this like right before we got on air was, oh, there's love is not a destiny. There's not this destiny in relationship. The only destiny we all know is that we're all gonna die. So spoiler alert, we're all gonna die. So
So end goal we're looking for with these relationships, we're just navigating them as they continue to change.
So, yeah, so if I think so then I'm thinking about how, okay, there's one grouping of folks who may be thinking, I want to progress this relationship. I want to evolve this relationship in a more specific way. And then there's those that are staying more status quo, but also recognizing even if, like, if you have a relationship, one of your partners you see weekly for years and years, and it is the same amount of time, you as humans are still going to evolve. So within that, even if certain things seem the same, we are constantly evolving. And that's what we
Right.
talk a lot about with married couples is the idea that stability doesn't equal not evolving or not changing. That
Right.
is a constant. And so I think there's these two pieces. And so I'd say I want to start off since we brought up the relationship smorgasbord. What is it for the folks listening or when people are thinking about, I want this relationship to progress and I'm not looking to slap on the label of living together or getting married, those types of things, but I do want to see some progression that this relationship smorgasbord, and don't be fooled. It says relationship anarchy and it can definitely be used for that. But when I look at it, and when I think about actually relationship anarchy in general, I think about how humans get to be autonomous within connection. And so that's when I see that wording in this worksheet. So this can be used, but they have specific categories, and using this as a tool when you want to progress through a relationship dynamic is looking at these different categories for yourself and then having a conversation with your partner or the partner that you want to do this.
It's one of my favorite tools for relationship check-ins because, like you said, you can do like the work in advance. I've had couples like go and highlight the areas with one particular connection. And again, this could be like they're looking at a friendship that's totally platonic. So this is not just sexual partners, romantic partners, what have you. But they've highlighted the areas that they felt like they overlapped and that encapsulated their relationship. And it may have been like, friendship, or there's like a lot of emotional vulnerability, or maybe they're like creative partners, or business partners on top of that, and then come together and see where they've highlighted. Does it match? Are there areas where we're not in agreement about what our relationship is about? And can we talk about that? And if relationships are needing to shift, that's a good tool to show, okay, we're going to close off this bubble, but let's open up this one.
Yeah, and so how outside of, like, looking to want to evolve a relationship outside of the standard, okay, you can talk to a partner and be like, "Okay, I would like to see you more often, or have more overnights, or have more maybe trips or weekends together, more time." That is one way to have this conversation, but that's not the only way. And in some non-monogamous and some polydynamics, that may not actually be possible to see that person physically more often. So then when you look at the categories of the relationship smorgasbord, you're looking at, well, what would I like to add to this?
Mhm. Yeah. I was
Good.
gonna say the other piece of it that it kind of invites, without saying this directly on the smorgasbord, but what it in essence is doing is helping us analyze what are the parts of me that this person is currently seeing, and are there other parts that I want to expose or invite them into? If we become creative partners, that's a whole different side of me than you're seeing as my sexual partner, you know? Those are the 2 that are in my mind because I'm a creative sexual person, so those are the ones I'm, like, focused on evidently today. But it is seeing those other sides, and kind of to your point, Keely, like, for example, if I'm in a structure where I only get to see somebody once every couple weeks, instead of doing the same exact thing every time, maybe we can go to a class together. Maybe we can, find a different time in the day so we see a different side of one another. Maybe there is integration that can happen where, like, I can invite a buddy for the first hour and, this person can meet one of my friends or something like that. But it isn't always, okay, more time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the way you just said that, Melissa, where showing someone more parts of you. I mean, I know in therapy, I won't go too much in it. There's IFS, but when you're saying this as parts, and the smorgasbord invites this, if currently the partner that you want to evolve more with or have this type of progression, build intimacy, that's the other thing I think of, is how can you include them in more parts of your life, or what parts of your life do you want to include them in? And that may mean that you do, like you said, it might not be more days, but maybe you switch the day you see them, or the time of day, because if they're only coming over late at night, then they're probably not going to meet your friends. Most likely, if you want them to meet your parents, they're probably definitely not going to meet your parents. I know that people with kids will decide which partners who are involved with their kids. And that definitely will, if they have like split custody or co-parent, when they may only see a partner when they don't have their children, and are they gonna switch the day? Are they gonna bring their children into it? Because I think that's a big piece. That's a really big piece of shifting a partnership, shifting a relationship dynamic. I mean,
Mhm.
bringing in, yeah, we talk about bringing in friends, but introducing your kids?
Yeah, that'll I mean, again, however you wanna say it, progress, grow, that'll shift the dynamic. That will change things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know, it's kind of thinking outside, well, it is, it's thinking outside of the relationship escalator, outside of the box, if you will, and thinking about, I think you sort of posed it this way, Keely, but what am I like, what do I want? What do I want this person to see of my life? Part of what's important about that relationship anarchy smorgasbord is understanding that not one partner is going to fill all those bubbles you might want someone to fill. And so you may have this idea that I want this person to progress with me in this way, and they may not be available for that. And again, whether you're monogamous or not, there are other people who can fill that bubble for you. So progressing also is not a solo event that happens in partnership and in community with other people. And not everyone is going to want or be able to join us in all of those areas.
Yeah, and I think so we're talking a lot about things bringing people inviting people into different areas and thinking about where there's crossover. I'm also thinking about specifically folks that may have a DS relationship with somebody. And if
Mhm.
that's strictly DS, domination, submissive, BDSM, what is it like to then switch over from just a DS dynamic to hanging out when you're not in that dynamic? If that's a transition that may really shift things.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. With that, I think with everything we've talked about, one of the concepts that's coming to my brain is the idea of novelty and doing new things together. Whether that's relating in a new way together, whether that's literally going and doing an activity neither one of you have done. We grow so much when we're like stepping intentionally outside of those patterns and habits that we've just gotten really comfy in. So it's changing it up a little bit.
And it's also vulnerability. It's also, we're talking about evolving and showing a person more sides of ourselves. Well, that also includes how much are you talking, not just sharing parts of your life, but how much are you talking to this person about your feelings, your emotions? How vulnerable are you with this person? If you don't feel comfortable being vulnerable with them, if that's something you want to shift and feel more comfortable being vulnerable, what do you need? I, for instance, I've heard, or one of the things I suggest is, even if it's a person that you only see once a week, as vulnerability increases, the opportunity to talk about aftercare including check-ins. So even if you're still only seeing a person the same amount of time, but does your communication in between hangouts, is that changing? Is that increasing? Is the way that you're communicating changing and increasing?
Right.
More
Yeah.
depth in that part of the communication?
Yeah. And if it's not, again, is that okay with you? Is that something you want to look at? Is that, we don't have to just progress for the sake of progressing, but be intentional about it.
Yeah, and I feel like I spent talking you and I were just talking more about people that are looking to intentionally move that evolution, move that to but then what if you don't? What if you wanted to just stay? How do you allow for some evolution while being very clear that you want status quo to stay?
Right. Yeah, because as you said, we can't help the fact that change and evolution will happen. Even if we're super satisfied with the dynamic as is, things are just naturally going to change and evolve. And to me, I mean, obviously all of this comes back to like communication because it always does. But specifically with that example, communication about what's working and what you hope to preserve. Like, hey, I know other partners are going to come in, or you're going to get a job at some point and you're going to be out of town, whatever it is. Here are the things that are really important to me. I want to make sure we always laugh together. I want to make sure, like find those things that are priorities for you. Like, I have to watch this one show with you. Just if we have to stream it together, like whatever it is, again, whatever your tradition is, be specific about what you're hoping to preserve. And then you can have an honest conversation about, is that something we actually do get to control? And we can say, yes, we're committed to preserving this. Or is that something that we actually can't control? And so we have to figure out how are we going to navigate those conversations and then grieve together when that part of our relationship falls away.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting looking through non-monogamous, but I'm also thinking about people who are mainly monogamous, but maybe are dating right now and deciding how they want to move a relationship forward and move from more of a dating several people, getting to know people, and then realizing, oh, I want to shift and just be dating the one person,
Yeah.
and I want to move this relationship forward
Yeah.
intentionally.
Mhm. Name it. You got to say it. You got to put it out there, right?
Yeah,
I'm
and
interested in moving this relationship forward. How does that sound to you? What does that look? Can we talk about what that even means or looks like?
everything we just said can be applied to that monogamous too. That
Mhm.
can be applied monogamously. And then thought of a third. I mean, there's probably many different scenarios, but I just thought of another scenario, which is what if you're wanting more in a situation, the person or the persons that you're hoping to have more connection with or more time with or evolve it, it's just not a situation that they are able to. What happened? How do you figure out if you call it quits that you're actually not getting what you want out of this sexual relationship, this romantic relationship?
Yeah.
Yes, we can talk all day about how we have many people in our lives to support different parts of ourselves, but at the end of the day, there is something to be said, even if we're non-monogamous, that sometimes there are situations we outgrow or evolve from, shift from, that was serving maybe even for many years, and now you're like, "Oh, yeah, I want more from a relationship, and this is all I'm gonna get from this relationship."
Yeah. That's really important. And part of what I have heard, again, regardless of relationship structure, is this, well, maybe it'll change eventually. And I go to the radical acceptance place here, and this is informed by my own life and something I realized I was not doing. I was not radically accepting people as they were today. I was accepting the version of them that I believe they could become according to my standards and my ideas of how they could grow and evolve. Like
Well,
when
the
I'm
promise
laughing
is
at
that they
something.
fed us, or the
Yeah,
promises that they're
right.
saying.
Exactly, exactly, and, I am the kind of person who sees, like, the best in people and what they could become, and I like to dream with people, so that's very much how I relate, but also, if I am not accepting somebody for who they are today as is, how am I gonna accept them in the future as is when they evolve? Like, we have to that's where the mindfulness and present moment really becomes important.
Mhm.
Uh, and the other thing is I don't get to dictate how people grow and change and evolve. So, I have to decide today, is this working for me? That's a choice I have to make every single day. Because
Yeah.
I can't control them, but I can control my relationship to them.
Yeah, and one of the hardest I think it's really, really challenging when a relationship like, nothing is going, quote, unquote, "wrong,"
Mhm.
but it just isn't what you want anymore,
Yeah.
and moving
Yeah.
beyond that, and again, so as we're talking about relationships evolving and shifting and changing and being intentional about evolving it, we're also talking about our own selves evolving, and we may be changing in a way separate or differently from the other person. And it doesn't always mean that there's something wrong. And it can
Right.
be really hard to change something if it isn't wrong or this person is actually just a really great person. There's still this really beautiful connection.
Yeah. I've heard some of the hardest breakup stories that were along those lines of, like, I've had people say, like, "I wish they were just an asshole so I could just forget about it," and move on. "I wish I could be angry so we still love each other and we've decided it doesn't work." Like, it's hard. It's very hard. And sometimes, again, going back to that present moment, we can realize this isn't working for me and I'm not ready to I can't I heard this from clients. "I can't do it. I can't leave. I'm not ready to go." Like, get rid of that can't. Like, right now you're not. But also, like, that's okay too. I don't wanna shame somebody and say, "Well, you must because it's not working." So no, again, I don't get to dictate that. What I advocate for is be aware of what you're in.
Yeah.
Don't gaslight yourself. Don't only listen to the one part of you that's getting one need met. Pay attention to all the parts of you and sit with that discomfort of like, I love this person and I feel stuck and I'm also not getting my needs met. You have to sit with that all parts of it, and that's uncomfortable to do. Unfortunately, healing is about going through the discomfort, not avoiding it, but it's okay. And I just want to normalize and take some of the shame and judgment out of if you're in a relationship that you know is not working, we can get rid of the judgment about why you haven't done anything about that yet. But just be aware of what you're in and what isn't working about it. And maybe even what is, because those things will be important to know for future relationships.
Yeah. And I really do like, as we wrap up this part of our conversation before I go to queer joy, I was thinking about I follow Shrimp Teeth on Instagram. If y'all don't follow them, they're great. And they have been talking about they call like their different folks in their lives buddies. That's the term they use. And I find it really cute and adorable. But anyway, and so they had recently posted something about really the only thing that jives for them is relationship anarchy for their style because of the autonomous piece, but also the piece, which is what we're talking about, is this ever changing and shifting way of being with people in our lives. And I think that it is really interesting that, as we were just saying, oh, if it's not working for you, it's like, oh, a person, it may not be fitting what you want romantically and sexually, but there can be shifts to then a more platonic, or maybe they're like an artistic partner, or
Yeah.
a person that works with you in a different way in your life.
Mhm.
And I think that we also have to be really honest with ourselves about what we want in the moment.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think you and I have used ourselves as examples sometimes of this idea where I mean, we've said it very clearly. Even a year ago, I was in a way different place. You've talked about being in a different place. So as
Totally.
humans, we want different things at different times.
Right.
And when it comes to sex, we've talked about sex a lot this year. We're going to keep talking about sex. And you may have more or less sexual partners, or you may decide that now you want to have sex more often when before you weren't.
Mhm.
And maybe that person that was your sexual partner or your specific sexual partners, you want more than that, but that's where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you want, maybe it's not shifting what those people already provide, but maybe you are bringing in more people.
Totally. Yeah.
It's not always evolution. I realize said this at the beginning as a very, even sometimes I have to catch myself almost being trained monogamously. So we talked about how to move forward with somebody when you want the relationship to evolve. And it also may just be that you're evolving as a person. And
Right.
so that relationship doesn't necessarily evolve in a way, but that you bring in other humans in a way that then is meeting what you want.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 The relationship dynamics may stay exactly the same, but because you have evolved, something in the larger system is going to change to address that. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's be real, also recognizing time is a very valuable resource. And we only have so much time in a day, in a week, in a year, in a
Mhm.
moment. So being intentional, moving forward, all of these things we're talking about is about intentionality.
Yeah, and with time being fixed and I hear this all the time in non-monogamy, right? Like we can have endless love. There might not be a limit on that, but there is limited time. And so I think that's another reason to separate the idea that the only way to progress is to spend more time together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Intimacy, connection, vulnerability can all increase, and that not always connected to how much time you spend with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on that note, check out we will be posting the relationship smorgasbord worksheet. We're not doing a workshop for that. Worksheet. My mouth, I am not getting full words out today. The worksheet will post on maybe on social media, but definitely on our website. And otherwise, now we get to talk about, I feel like that's pretty, maybe that's a middle ground topic. I don't think it was as depressing as other topics, but I don't know how joyful, but we get to talk about queer joy now because I don't know. Was it a downer? I don't know.
I don't think I don't feel down. Maybe it was a downer for someone. I'm sorry if we brought you down. But again, I think it's
Pressure.
good to be real. I appreciate it. I think in hindsight, Keely, I think you and I probably felt way more down last episode than what actually is translated. But I want to name that I appreciate we get to show up authentically here. I hope our listeners appreciate that too. But it would be impossible for me to show up and like talk about relationships if I was not feeling, like I don't know. I gotta be a human. So thank you for the space to do that. Sometimes that means I'm having a bad week.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wanna go first? Because I think I have a queer joy, but I
Uh-huh.
also wanna give my brain a moment while I'm listening.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to debate because I have 2 this week, but I'm gonna save one because sometimes I need I need some more help.
But coordinated reserves
Yeah.
for reserve.
My reserve of joy, and I'm still debating, like, even right now, I'm still debating, which one do I wanna say? I'll say this one. I've said something about this before, like, a long time ago, maybe even a year ago, and it's partially because I don't the self-care I do not regularly engage in is buying myself clothing. Really, my relationship with capitalism is a big focus of my life right now. But I just was feeling bored with my like few winter outfits. And so I got myself on Poshmark, which is that's a dangerous app for me. It's the app that I have to put like 5 screens away from the home screen, like in a folder a couple swipes away. So I don't just go there without realizing I'm there. But the way that I was able to restrict my spending was I'm like, "You can buy 1 outfit. You can buy 1 full outfit," right? And so I bought this, like I'm wearing it right now, actually. I bought this, it's a men's sweater, and I for some reason, it feels like it's way better quality than most of the sweaters I've ever purchased a women's department. It's, like, hardy, and it's just, like,
Are any of
cozy.
us shocked or amazed? It
No.
probably actually is
It
better
is. It's like a really good quality, but like cheap and also Poshmark, so it's used. Anyway, I got some jeans, which I'm laughing because they're old, they're like older jeans, but they're like the boyfriend cut, which like was a thing for me when
style
I was in, like
again.
what middle school or something.
Yeah. No, it's in style again.
It's back. I know. I'm like, this is so funny. I'm old enough that like all the trends, right, are coming
Okay.
back.
Okay.
And the funny thing is I hated them back then because they weren't like the bell bottom tight thing that I was looking for. And now I'm like, dude, if I knew I was queer back then, I would have rocked these jeans. So I'm like really feeling it. It's my first pair.
That just the Doc buying the Doc Martens and they're your first pair, that
I
could just
know.
equal their joy.
I am so joyful. And like it does make a difference. Like not every day is like a day that I'm jiving with this look. Like I do that's part of the gender fluidity is that I just like to present differently because I feel differently. And sometimes I like my presentation to not really have anything to do with my gender anyway. But I have been really needing something that was a lot less femme recently, and it feels great. And I actually wore this sweater when I went on a solo date recently. I went and saw Harry Potter at the Symphony. And like for some reason wearing this sweater and my glasses are very round. I'm like, I feel like Harry and it's great. It made me
Oh,
so happy.
beautiful.
So,
That's super
that's
cute.
my queer joy. It's like affirming affirming clothing.
Yeah, so, kind of in past, there was a social media trend that I really felt like queer joy to me, even though but it was based on a sad topic, which is just there was on January 15th, it's the 5th year of the transphobia as a sin, which is hashtag transphobia as a sin, which is highlighting the damage of religion, how transphobic religion is and how harmful it is, especially for all trans folks and especially for Black, brown, and Indigenous folks. And so the trend itself, the queer joy was seeing these people holding up signs, especially like parts of clergy holding up these signs saying things like trans people are divine. And so like scrolling through because my feed, because I had posted something. And so because it was part of the hashtag, I kept seeing this feed of all these like beautiful people with these things reaffirming how wonderful and awesome trans people are. Like it was so lovely. It just
Amazing.
made me so happy. So,
Yes.
so happy. And so that was a queer joy. And I do want to add a second one just because it's so cute. But again, I mean, it's cute, but then it also is kind of sad. But my daughter, one of her best friends identifies as a lesbian. And we were talking about dating or whatever. And it's cute and sad because she's out to my daughter, she's out to me, but she's not out to her parents.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
the queer joy in that is that I get to be a safe haven
Yeah.
for teens to talk about queerness and transness, my
Yeah.
home. And so like, and I probably said a queer joy similarist before, but it's going to continue to be a queer joy for me, especially because my children are of this age now, to
Mhm.
get to be that adult that you can talk about being gay, you can talk about being non-binary, you can talk about being trans, you can talk about crushes and sex and safer sex and all these different things
Amazing.
and be there. And just it's just really cute hearing these little teens talk about. I shouldn't say little. By the way, my child is like 5'10". So when I say little, I'm not actually talking physically.
Young, young.
These are the people today. It's amazing. It's wonderful, amazing, beautiful, so joyful.
Amazing. I love it. That's so important.
So on that note, awesome. Love. I thoroughly enjoy doing these podcasts, and I get really excited and kind of sad at the end.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I love ending on a joyful note.
Yeah.
And for those, we can do the spoiler now because it's coming up. We are really super excited to be interviewing Lucy Fielding. So look out for that. She is the author of Transsex. So check out her book, check out her Instagram, check her out because she will be on the podcast in a couple weeks. So look to that. I could have added that. Dang it, now I've done like 3 queer joys. Anyway, y'all are great. Thank you for following us. Please let us know questions, thoughts, anything you want to see change. Otherwise, have a queer and joyful week.
Thanks for listening to Queer Relationships, Queer Joy, a podcast by the Connective Therapy Collective. Hosted by Keely C. Helmick and Melissa DeSegurant, with audio edited by Leigh Supapo Bernito. I'm your producer and behind-the-scenes buddy, Cardinal Marking. Intro music is by Bad Snacks. If this episode made you smile or think, tell us about it. If you hated it, tell us about that. Review us on iTunes or Spotify, or send us an email at media@connectivetherapycollective.com. Follow our Instagram at queer_relationships_queer_joy and find more resources on our website, www.connectivetherapycollective.com/queer relationships_queer joy. It's a lot of links. Just check the episode description. All right. Love you. Bye.